What's up, slashes and slashettes? My name's Nightfall, and welcome back to another anime analysis video. Today we will be discussing the protagonist of the saga of Tanya the Evil, Tanya Von Degurechaff. To start off with, this anime as a whole is pretty dark and mature, which makes me love it, but this is a character analysis, so I'll leave that there. Getting into the character analysis, Tanya Von Degurechaff used to be a salaryman in our world who was killed after a person he laid off pushed him onto the path of an oncoming train. It's there that time stops, and we meet God. Or at least an omnipotent being who claims to be God that he names Being X because he denounces God due to multiple reasons. After continuing to denounce God to his face, Being X tells him that he will be reincarnated into dire straits to make him start to have faith. Basically, DMC fucks around with God and finds out. This is a recurring theme in the show, but anywho, he is then reincarnated as a baby girl who was abandoned and grew up in a very poor orphanage, and with no other way out, volunteered and joined the military when she was 10. Keep in mind, this is a world set in World War I, and magic exists here. That girl was Tanya. And you would expect, given the fact that, he met God and is now reincarnated as a baby girl, that he would change how he used to be. Tanya, however, does the opposite, and expands on that, as she is very selfish, apathetic, overly logical, and is written to be a morally gray to evil character, making her far different from other anime protagonists who are mainly just super overpowered with average intelligence and the morality of Jesus, which there's nothing wrong with, it's just that that's nice to see a break from the tropes now and again. Speaking of said intelligence, she is a very talented strategist, using her knowledge from her previous life, and just common sense and logic in general, to help the Empire, which is this world's version of Germany, win the war. I always love watching an anime protagonist who uses strategy rather than just bullshitting it through because they're broken. But that's not to say she isn't overpowered. Being X allows her to use very powerful spells every time she prays, which also makes her the most powerful person in the show other than Mary Sue. However, while it does help and does play a part, her strategism is far more focused on than any other aspect of her character. Any other aspect besides her evil nature, right? Well, not exactly. The show is called The Saga of Tanya the Evil, and she has been described as a lolly Hitler by members of the community, but I realized something after watching the show. After watching Saga of Tanya the Evil, I realized Tanya Von Degurechaff isn't actually as evil as everyone says. Now, I will say I haven't read the manga or the light novel at all, so perhaps she's far more evil later on, but as of right now in the anime, she's only done a couple of things that can be considered evil. The first is she sent two of her own men to an area knowing it would get blown up and kill them because they disobeyed orders, and she's very strict, to say the least, when it comes to following and respecting rules. However, it has also been mentioned that disobeying orders is punishable by firing squad, so in reality they're probably going to die no matter what happened. But this is, in my opinion, probably the only thing that you can really point to and say she's evil for, especially because of that smile. The second is the training of her own battalion, where she made it hell on earth to break their spirits, and let's be real, she was also trying to kill them. So the battalion would take longer to form, or really anything else would happen, so she wouldn't be sent to the front lines. The third is when she purposely makes her voice childlike when giving an evacuation order in Dakia, so no one will evacuate and they can still land a surprise attack. But honestly, this is mainly on the military not taking a threat seriously, even if it did sound kid-like. Also, she only destroys an ammo facility, so it's not like she wiped out an entire city or country. Speaking of entire cities, however, the fourth one that most people point to would be in Arene. Irene? Arene? Arene? Whatever. When she is given orders to eliminate enemy guards who are close to civilians, knowing that the civilians trying to evacuate could also get shot, and she doesn't seem to care. She explains it's because many would go on to become soldiers and join the war, which, as we see later on with Mary Sue, isn't exactly wrong. Also, they are citizens of an enemy country, and she is trying to win a war. So, while it was definitely morally wrong purely logically speaking, it did make a little sense as to why she wouldn't necessarily care if they got killed as well. Again, she was also simply following orders, of which, as I previously stated, is punishable by firing squad if disobeyed. Granted, she probably wouldn't be given that punishment due to her rank and how well the higher-ups like her, but it is still a possibility. Apart from those examples, everything else she decides to do that other people point to, and even some of those examples, are simply because she is fighting in a war and trying to win. She does tend to go further than most would, i.e., singing the Empire's national anthem and filming it after attacking the capital of the Federation, but that's not really evil, it's just a dick move. And when it comes to her own men, despite the two she sent off to kill, and after she basically tries to kill her battalion as training, she eventually does seem to care about their well-being, even if it's just a very small amount. On top of that, her soldiers seem to be very loyal and trust her and her judgment on most topics. So, given those facts, she's a soldier who follows orders, she's apathetic, and she's selfish. However, she hasn't been shown to really be as evil as everyone makes her out to be. She's not a good person by far, don't get me wrong, and she's a hard ass, but that's about as much as you can say about her. Hell, it's stated on multiple occasions throughout the show that she even hates having to kill people and wishes she didn't have to. Perhaps in the manga she is worse, and perhaps if the anime gets another season, she will be worse, but as it sits in the anime, she is nowhere close to being a lolly Hitler. Hell, there are people who are evil and nowhere close to that. And she's not even close to being as evil as them. She's an apathetic, overly logical jerk who made a couple of morally bad and questionable choices and just wants the war to end so she can go and live a peaceful life without having to kill or be killed. If that makes her evil, then a lot of us are far more evil than we think. To drive the point home, I even watched Isekai Quartet to see if she would have any evil tendencies or choices or things like that, but instead it just further proves she's not really evil. And in fact, it actually makes her seem like a pretty decent person. Granted, this is a comedy anime and probably can't be considered as canon, but I just wanted to mention Isekai Quartet in case there would be any instances in the show that would make her seem evil. So, with all that said, whether or not you think she is evil, she is an interesting protagonist whose strategism and questionable morals is focused on more so than her sheer power, which makes her much different from other protagonists, and that is why I believe Tanya Von Degurechaff is one of the greatest isekai protagonists in anime. I put off watching this isekai for a while, and after watching it, I knew I had to make a video about it because it's genuinely a good watch, and I can't wait to see what Tanya does next. With that out of the way, I hope you all enjoyed the video. If it's your birthday, happy birthday, and I will hopefully see you all soon. Goodbye.